Mortgage Bank. That's a big bank, you need to get yourself involved in that. Now, I'm looking through my papers here, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these tips that I think I can give you guys that will thoroughly help you this morning. And one came to mind about tracking your spending. And a few weeks ago, I challenged many of you to get a tracker app, get a book, jot down if it's a pack of nuts you buy. Because sometimes you ever spend money and then you had a 500 in your pocket and you check, you buy a pants. So you pay 100 for the pants, but then you buy a beer, you buy a soft drink, you buy a pack of nuts, a burger. These things you don't get a receipt for. So because you end up spending about $270 and where does $270 went? But if you write down, you would understand where your money going and you can track it. How? Well, here's the tip. Tracking your spending is key to understanding where your money is going and identifying areas where you can cut back. Use of a spending tracker app or a simple spreadsheet to record your expenses. Analyze your purchases every week or month to spot trends. By staying aware of your spending habits, you can make conscious decisions to save more and cut down on your impulsive purchases. And that is factor. When you track your spending, you can know exactly per week. I find out buying breakfast every morning. $25 for the breakfast. If I do that for 4 days, that is $100. By the end of the week, is $125 I spend. But if I buy a sandwich loaf, it might last me until Wednesday. $20 for that. Some cheese, some eggs, make a sandwich, come to work. Cup of coffee in the office. So that's how you track your spending, and then you will know exactly where it's coming. That financial tip will help you to live your best financial life, courtesy the Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Bank. Keep listening to Freedom 106.5 FM for more of those financial tips. We'll be back with more.
TTMF and HMB have joined forces to offer you greater mortgage, financing and investment advantages under one roof. Welcome to TTMB, the new Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Bank. Call 625-8863 or visit ttmortgagebank.com to learn more. TTMB, the Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Bank. Own your future.
This is Freedom 106.5 FM, 106.5 FM. Your solution for current affairs and talk. Join the conversation today as we build a better nation. Insightful discussions and interviews on national progress, the latest developments in environmental, social, and governance, plus corporate social responsibility. Freedom 106.5 FM gives you a voice. Freedom to inspire. Freedom to change. Speak your mind with Freedom 106.5 FM. Engage with Davey on the all-new Talk Radio Freedom 106.5.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's 15 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. Welcome back. Well, 14 actually. It's slowly moving its way up to the 8 o'clock hour this morning. Don't forget, coming up at the top, we have your news to the top of the hour as well. But at this time, we turn our attention to the Minister of Health, Minister Terence Dial Singh, the candidate for, is it Arangwa St. Joseph. And he's under the PNM, and he's here with me this morning as we get set to talk about some of the health issues or health accomplishments that the government would have made over the last 5 years. Minister Dial Singh, welcome to Freedom Studios. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Davey, and welcome to me. First time here, and thank you for having me, and good morning to all your listeners.
I mean, it would be remiss of me if I didn't ask you about the election campaign and how the trail is going. What is the feedback? What you're getting in the constituency of Arangwa?
So the campaign is going good. I expect to be victorious. But a lot of hard work has to be done, a lot of hard slogging. So the work continues. And by the grace of God and with the support of the people I have served over the past 12 years or so, with a degree of positivity, I think they are seeing the results of my work. So we wait and see.
Minister Dial Singh, you've been holding down this portfolio for quite some time, and I must commend you on your comments in today's papers as it relates to you wishing the former AG good luck. Any thoughts on that matter?
Yeah, we in the PNM, we have a different code of morality when it comes to these things. Mr. Jeremy wants to associate himself with the most corrupt government that this country has ever seen. That's his choice. And as I said, if he finds comfort in the company of Philip Alexander, Ansel Roger, Arnold Roberts, if he finds comfort in the company of people like that, I wish him all the best.
But was it a surprise to you all? Did you all get any sort of notions coming from within that? Was he an active member of the PNM for that matter?
Not in the time I have been Minister of Health. I have not seen him at any functions, heard about him. But as I said, we have a constitution in this country that guarantees freedom of association and freedom of speech. So let the man do what he has to do. I disagree with his choice of political friends because I have inherent difficulty with the likes of Arnold Roberts, Wade Mark, Rudal Munilal, Philip Alexander. So if Mr. Jeremy finds comfort in that company, so be it.
One of the things I want to touch on with you this morning, Minister, is one texter is asking me that, but we'll get to that question later on. I thoroughly benefited from a drive that you all did for men.
Was that the prostate screening?
The prostate screening.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that initiative and the results that would have been yielded by your ministry.
So that was part of our non-communicable diseases drive, NCDs.
Yes.
When we think NCDs, we think the two most common ones, diabetes and hypertension. However, NCDs is broader than that. It's diabetes, it's hypertension, it's mental health, it's cancers. And in the past, men were reluctant to be screened for prostate cancer because they did not want to undergo the digital rectal exam. For whatever reasons, we could talk about that, but for a short conversation, they just did not want to do that. They had problems being physically examined like that. So what I decided to do, I scanned the environment and I found that there was a simple blood test. You take a finger prick, similarly you do for a diabetes test, put it on this cassette, and you get a reading within 2 minutes. That reading will tell you if you're a candidate for further examination. And that was widely successful. Men gravitated towards it in their thousands. So now, thousands of men who previously did not know the state of their prostate health, like you, now know. Yeah. And knowledge is the first component of winning a fight.
Yeah.
You can't defeat something if you don't know about it. So that simple prostate test was a game changer in how we engage with men to get their understanding of their prostate health.
Minister Diyal Singh, as we talk about some of the initiatives accredited to you under this administration, we talk about there's something known as the BFHI, which is the Baby Hospital Initiative. Do you care to share some insight on that, please?
So again, that has to do with our NCD trust, non-communicable diseases. One of the reasons in Trinidad and Tobago globally for high rates of childhood obesity and childhood diabetes is that when a woman is pregnant and she has uncontrolled diabetes, she will give birth to a big, heavy child because that child is growing in a glucose-rich environment.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the Baby-Friendly Hospital Initiative starts in the womb where we track mothers and their what we call gestational diabetes during pregnancy. And you hopefully give birth to a healthier, lower weight child. The Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, BFHI now, is to instigate breastfeeding as early as possible because one of the drawbacks of modern living is the substitution of breast milk with formula. Formula does not have the natural antibodies, the correct fat content that babies need. It is not a substitute for breast milk. And what has happened in this country because of the aggressive promotion of formula and the advent of working mothers are not breastfeeding as early as possible and for as long as possible. So the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative was to get mothers to instigate breastfeeding within 24 hours of giving birth. Before the initiative, 25% of women were breastfeeding early in our hospitals.
Okay.
After the initiative, it has moved to 95%.
Whoa.
Yes, yes. And the population will not hear these good stories because good stories don't sell. So we have moved from 25% early initiation of breastfeeding to 95%. And what we encourage mothers to do after you are discharged in our postnatal clinics is to continue that breastfeeding for as long as humanly possible. Ideally, you should breastfeed exclusively for the first 2 years of that baby's life. Ideally. But I don't know how old you are, but in my day, many mothers did not work. So they were at home. So
True.
they were able to breastfeed for longer.
For longer periods, yeah.
But now with a lot of working mothers,
you have 3 months at home.
so if we could get you at least for 3 to 6 months, that is still a big help in reducing infant diabetes, childhood diabetes. Because a diabetic mother, the chances of you giving birth to a diabetic child raises significantly. And then if you raise that child on formula, you are literally dooming that child to become diabetic, overweight, unhealthy. So that is what BFHI is about. It's a PAHO initiative.
I saw that.
Yes.
And let's talk about the Sangre Grande Hospital, because there's so many things I want to cover with you in a very short space of time, as you do have other things to visit this morning. Let's talk about the Sangre Grande Hospital and that whole infrastructure that you all designed there, and what sort of equipments and how, how
Okay.
up to the times is it?
Yeah. So let me explain. In healthcare system, we categorize healthcare by levels: primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, tertiary healthcare.
Primary, secondary, tertiary.
So your health centers, your first port of call, that is primary healthcare. If you need to be referred to an institution like a hospital, that is secondary healthcare.
Okay.
And then if you need more advanced intervention like cardiac surgery, kidney transplant, that's a tertiary hospital. So Eric Williams, Port of Spain General, San Fernando, these are tertiary hospitals where the most advanced care goes. Sangre Grande Hospital is one of a cluster of secondary hospitals like Point Fortin, like Arima, like Sangre Grande, like St. James. Okay? So Sangre Grande is one of our, Sangre Grande, Point Fortin, Arima is one of our star secondary hospitals. It is providing excellent service, as is Point Fortin, as is Arima. So it is not only a building, it is what is going on in the building now. And what we are piloting now and doing now is a total transformation from paper-based systems to paper-light and paperless systems using technology. So the days of writing down notes is being phased out. One of the biggest complaints your callers will have if you open up the lines is that when they go to a clinic, their file is lost. They can't find a physical file. Now we are digitizing files. So we are moving to one patient, one record, one view. Another example for Sangre Grande. You may take a MRI, your wife, mother may take a mammogram in a hospital. They go down south, they fall ill. Before this year, South could not read your radiological examinations. They will have to retake a MRI. What we have done now, we have linked all the hospitals so that I could see all your investigations across the board, regardless of where you are. So all your CTs, MRIs, mammograms, X-rays can be seen by doctors with the appropriate clearance across the system. We are doing the same thing with your blood work. I can see it across the system, so I don't have to retake blood, redo lab work, reuse resources, reuse reagents. And then we are piloting what we call now e-prescriptions, electronic prescriptions. So when you visit the doctor, he writes an electronic prescription. It goes straight down to the pharmacy, and by the time you reach there, your waiting line is much lower. But what happens is now we have a digital record of your history. That is important. So that we could see your history very easily online.
All right, Minister. I hear you. And I will, let me see what's happening this morning. All right. So we'll open the lines this year. I want to share some personal thoughts with you on my experience. Within the last couple of days, I had to visit last week, just before the SCA, I think it was Wednesday, and Friday. I had to visit Friday. It was Fridays when I went through it. Wednesday, Friday. So I went Wednesday, and to see a doctor with my son. I went to the clinic, the health center in Mount Hope, which is by the Bush Route area there.
Right.
And Minister, there was a television series on TV called Undercover Boss.
Okay.
What Undercover Boss is...
Oh, yes, I know.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought about you. And I say, Minister, you need to do something because you have just itemized something there that I have seen in direct opposite to what you just said. Because I got to the hospital. I had to take a number. I had to wait to be called to a window. By the time I get called to the window, my son sitting down there, he's in a bit of discomfort. Outside of the AC working real nice, the AC cool. I took him over to the window. Register him. Written. Nothing was typed up. Written. And then, from that point, I was told to go in the next area. And I had to sit down there. And that visit took me 3 hours.
Right.
Now, I'm looking there. Person's just there. By the time I move from the triage on the front to another waiting area, midsection of the cell center, I had to now go down to the end where I will actually see a doctor. And then I had another wait process. My entire thing was 3 hours and 2 hours and 10 minutes thereabouts when I walked out of the establishment with my son. And I purposefully did that because I wanted the experience. On Friday, I returned because I needed to get a letter that the doctor did not give me when I asked him for it on Wednesday. So I had to come back Friday. But I understood why. The rhetoric to go through to get that letter to me, they told me 2 weeks. It will take 2 weeks. I could not understand. I made no noise. Some people make a noise. I made no noise. And I'm telling you this story. This is my personal experience, and this happened last week.
Right.
Friday, I was supposed to be at work here for 12. I got in a little late because of another 3-hour wait for this letter. So when I went back, I literally had to speak to a supervisor now to help me, and I had to show them the prescription that the doctor gave me on Wednesday, which was written. I got half the medication was at the pharmacy, the next half I had to go and purchase outside. So I took that experience as well. I didn't have a problem. Sometimes drugs run out. They didn't stock back the shelves. It didn't reach in time, and I had to go outside. I go outside, but I did get some. And then when I went back to get the letter that I needed for my son, it took me 2 hours, 50 minutes, less than 3 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes. And they had to call a typist from another department from up the hospital because the one for this section was ill that day. So I'm asking you now, with those type of challenges, how are you, what initiatives is the government employing outside of these beautiful thoughts of one view, one patient, one file? I love that. But we the citizens, when we face this type of dilemma.
So it will take some time to roll out the technology to all
Noted.
109 health centers. But the process has started. The reason why in 2025 the process is delayed is because we lost 3 years during COVID.
Right.
This process was supposed to start in 2020, but you understand what happened in 2020.
Well, we had at least 2 years downtime.
So we had 2 years downtime. So we are 2 years late in rolling out this technological revolution. And I admit that.
Okay.
Because during COVID, my focus was only on COVID and keeping the health sector, which did not collapse like other countries, up and running. So that if you needed care, you could have gotten care. Let me ask you a question. What was the issue you had to take your son there for?
There was something with his respiratory tract. He had a what they call a tract infection. The doctor ended up diagnosing.
Was it a life-threatening emergency?
It was not life-threatening.
And that is the issue. I remember former Minister Fuad Khan saying he was pulling out his hair, trying to explain to citizens that in an accident and emergency setting, it is not first come, first serve. it is worst come, first serve. The triage process is to determine who is in the most danger of losing their life now. And we treat that person first. So that is why you have to wait.
Noted.
The person coming in with a gunshot wound doesn't have to wait. The person coming in with a heart attack will be treated early. But if you come in with an infection, that is not a immediate life-threatening situation. The mother bringing in a child with an asthma attack who will die within 5 minutes because they can't breathe will be treated first. And that is why in that setting, the persons who are not in immediate danger of losing their lives will have to wait. We follow something called the CTAS system, Canadian Triage Acuity System, where when you are triage level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Levels 1 and 2, levels 1 have to be seen immediately. That is life-threatening. In your son's case, it was not immediately life-threatening. People have to understand, in an emergency, you have to prioritize to see. That gives you some level of explanation.
It does. And I didn't tell you it because I wanted to downplay or you know, come at you for the health crisis or the health situation in the country. It was...
So let me say, there's no health crisis in the country.
Well, right, that's
I
it.
don't know why you went down that road.
My apologies. But to say that it was bad health care I received, what I looked at is the wait time and the amount, and nobody's saying anything. So as you explained that,
yes,
we get past that.
Yes.
Now, would you say that we have competent doctors in Trinidad and Tobago?
Absolutely. I don't know why you would even raise that.
Well, here's why. We've time and time again would have seen government ministers and persons in high office, when they have to do their checkups and their annual checkups and they leave the country and they go abroad.
That has nothing to do with competency. A lot of time it has to do with privacy.
Repeat.
It has nothing to do with competency. Very often it has to do with privacy and personal choice. I'll give you an example. When I was diagnosed with dengue, becoming a minister the first time, I was in Port of Spain Hospital. You know what a newspaper journalist wrote? She was able to get my files from Port of Spain General Hospital and displayed my personal medical records in the newspaper.
But isn't that unethical?
Very.
Isn't the hospital bounded by confidentiality?
Very. But even if you got it, you're going to write an article about me in the newspaper?
Wow.
You see, you all don't know the whole stories. You all just assume things.
Well, Minister, we have to go on perception. If perception is not backed with fact, then perception becomes reality. So
Yes.
if we are in the absence of information...
So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Well, right. So in the absence of
Yeah.
information, perception will become reality.
So very often, it could be a privacy issue or personal choice. Everybody has personal choice.
So it's not that the...
I choose to use the public health care system. That is my personal choice.
Because I chose to use it that day too.
Exactly.
It was a choice. I wanted to go through it
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
sit and look at the experience.
Yeah.
As a radio presenter and a morning show host, I pay attention to detail and everything. And I would often travel sometimes.
Look,
just to get the
I
experience.
had
to
to
see.
go to Eric Williams at the start of the year because I was coughing a lot. Whilst I was being treated, the media started to call me and wanted to know what I was being treated for. I am being treated, but the media is calling me while I am being treated because they heard I was there, and could I tell them what I am being treated for?
Minister,
Why I'm there?
Minister, you would get those calls, and I would be
Yeah.
very, very honest with you. When you have entered the life of public service and you become a minister in this country, whereas we will be driving down the road and see a man urinating on some lamppost and pass him straight. If we catch you doing that same thing, that is a headline in the newspaper.
And rightly so.
And rightly so. So it comes with the job that you have accepted.
But I
concerns.
tend to draw a line at medical issues. I think my medical issue, once it does not impact on my ability to perform my job, there are some medical issues that should remain,
Well, again,
Private.
while I would appreciate what you're saying there, I cannot agree 100 because there are certain things that goes with the territory as your job. Maybe the media called you because they were concerned for your health.
They wanted a story.
They need, well,
It's a story.
anything you do,
But
health minister,
you
is a
couldn't
story.
wait until after.
Why? It's who get it first. We hot off the press. Minister Dial Singh is at the Bongtop Hospital. He actually went there. All you serious? How I can imagine the newsroom going a buzz with the news editor saying, "All you get on that story one time. Make sure he's really there."
At least let me be treated first now.
Well, boy, if you could catch you while the doctor is checking your heart and sounding you and get a picture of that, we
You good to go?
We good to
Nice
go.
one.
You can't vex with us
I
in the
like
media.
it. I like it.
You can't vex with us in the media. So, with this being said, I will ask callers to be respectful. You're free to voice your opinions as strongly as you want, but please be respected and be mindful. We have the minister in studio with us, so you can ask your questions as we open the phone lines. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello. Good morning, Davy, and good morning, Minister. Minister, a couple of days ago, your colleague in the Parliament from Sequoia blamed you for 19 deaths that took place at the NICU. Now, I know that your other colleague, Dr. Fuad Khan, when the issue started, came out in defense of the nurses at the care center, and he went on to explain that babies born under these conditions is really and truly a trying condition, and it's very difficult. Now, do you think in a circumstance such as this medical situation, and we are dealing with something as a professional thing, this ought to find itself on the platform as you being responsible for those 19 deaths? I'll listen to your comments.
Well, first of all, it's not 19. It's about 7. We have a way of exaggerating. But because the matter is before the court, I am being respectful of the legal process. And my parliamentary colleague who is using this for political advantage, I will not put the parents of those babies through this on a political platform. A legal process has started. As a Minister of Health, I prefer to let the legal process work.
Okay.
Because I don't want to prejudice the case one way or the other. But I understand where you are coming from, and I must say your perspective is a very mature, respectful perspective, and sir, I thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, I'm not sure because I was actually attending to you a few moments ago. Was he talking about the San Fernando?
No.
All right, so
Port of Spain.
All right, so recently San Fernando Hospital came into the spotlight for at least 2 infants dying, or one being left abandoned and one dying, the parents saying negligence and that kind of thing. Now, what happens in a case like that with the ministry? Now, people on the radio station, they went to tongue on it. The minister had to get involved. And, I mean, as the line minister, when you see these stories, the video, I woke up that morning to a video of a woman lying with a baby that was premature, I think 7 months or so. And when I read some stories and, did some fact-finding and research on the matter, they say under those conditions, those children don't really survive.
They don't.
So they leave the mother and the child to comfort and allow, and the baby passes.
And that is correct. We need to treat these things with information and compassion. What happened on Southwest put out a release. A snapshot was taken totally out of context, and that bred an entire story. You let the mother and child have a moment. Let them have that moment. But premature babies, unfortunately, many don't survive. Many babies are born with congenital defects, congenital heart defects, underdeveloped brain. But unfortunately, we have adopted a attitude that everything, everybody, every child must survive. We have one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the world. Unfortunately, you have something called spontaneous abortions. That is when the mother's body, by design, by God or whatever, realizes that that embryo development, that baby development is what we call unviable. And the body has a way of rejecting that by having a spontaneous abortion.
Which can be seen, otherwise known as a miscarriage.
Correct.
Right.
is the body's defense mechanism to prevent a baby being born that will not have a good life, a sustainable life. That is nature's way of dealing with these things. But again, I want to commend you now for not jumping to the conclusions that other people jump, because you understood, you researched it, and you understood what was happening.
I did.
So
I did.
just like the caller who dealt with compassion and information, you are doing the same thing. And again, I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Minister. I did research it, and when we get the other stories, I looked at the video, and it did give a picture.
Yes.
It did paint a picture, but
In isolation.
right. So that's a segment, and I often alluded to the point of a person taking a picture attempting to hold the moon.
Yes.
Based on the angle of the camera, it would look that way. But
Yeah.
if you look at the whole,
Exactly.
the entire 360, you would realize
You
that's
see-
not the case.
You
So
see, context is important. And what happens, and this is not a Trinidad and Tobago thing, what happens around the world, especially with social media and camera phones and so on, we take a snapshot of something and then we imagine a story around it. But what was happening in that case is exactly what you said.
But then,
it was a moment of compassion.
But is there probabilities and possibilities that babies do survive under those conditions? Because when I looked at it, the percentage of that happening could be at least 8%, which is significantly, 1% chance of survival is good enough for me to try and save your life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I have a 8% worldwide on a global scale, 8% of those
Yeah.
children could
Yeah.
survive
Yeah.
and live healthy lives,
Yeah.
why would we not make attempts?
Well, you see, I don't want to go into the mother's medical history.
Okay,
on
understood.
air.
Understood.
And that's the disadvantage I will always have.
Understood.
People and the media could say everything, but I am bound by patient confidentiality.
Noted. So, in the events of parents claiming negligence at the hospitals that their baby died, given the wrong painkillers, what is the ministry's stance on this? How do you get involved? Because they say the buck stops with the minister, the
Right.
line minister. But if you are the minister and under the employ of your ministry, these persons are operating. Look where you are this morning. If something is happening at San Fernando, you are here. Even if it's right in Port of Spain General, you are here. So we can't blame you for a doctor's negligence there. But what is the ministry's position thereafter?
So again, you are making the assumption and you are coloring the entire health system with negligence. You are failing to admit or recognize that many good things happen. I'm
getting to that point, but I just
Right.
wanted to ask you,
However,
on those cases,
negligence has to be proven in a court of law.
That's the point.
It is not for the
That's the
lay person to decide negligence. Negligence is a medical legal term. And very often, our doctors and nurses who come out every day to do their very best, just because something may go awry, things happen.
Noted.
It doesn't mean we are negligent.
Which one of your hospitals have the best neonatal care?
Port of Spain General Hospital.
And
It is the main level 4 neonatal
in the country.
The worst cases come to Port of Spain, and that is the point we need to understand. Port of Spain, the weakest, most premature, most challenged babies from both the private sector
Yes.
and the public sector come to Port of Spain. The private sector only has one NICU bed. Do you know that?
I did not, but what I did know is that you will spend your thousands of dollars, and if something is not right, they have to send you to Port of Spain to save your life at the end of the day. That's what is most crucial. I take another call with you this morning, Minister. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Minister.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Murray.
Thank you very much for calling.
And I do wish this party the best in the election. But, Mr. Minister, I have a problem where what they call the Children's Hospital. Could you explain to us the reason and what state the so-called Children's Hospital and what state you met it in? Did it have all the equipment? And that same new NICU section, does it also have one of that there? Could you explain that to us, please?
Sure. So when we came into office, the Couva Hospital was still a construction site. UDCOT only turned it over in June of 2017. The Couva Hospital is currently being used As a matter of fact, on a walk in my constituency yesterday, a constituent told me she got cataract surgery there and the service was impeccable. So the hospital is divided into, let's say, two main sections. The teaching section, which UWI is currently using to teach programs like pharmacy, nursing, and so on, that is being fully utilized. We had used it as our focal point for COVID. We actually had to put in more equipment during COVID to support the COVID patients. Contrary to what the leader of the opposition is saying, not one piece of equipment has ever been moved out of Couva. And the proof of that is when a joint select committee actually visited Couva some years ago, and they could verify that. It is currently being used to manage our backlog of cataract surgeries. Hundreds of cataract surgeries are being performed there. The entire radiological department is being used. So it is incorrect to say that the Couva Hospital is not being used. However, the Couva Hospital, before COVID, was supposed to be handed over to the University of the West Indies to do research, just like how they have in Mona, Jamaica, following that model, where Mona, Jamaica has their own hospital, because research is important and the teaching of students is important. So the Couva Hospital is being used. We did not touch one thing, we did not remove anything, and it is being used.
So currently the hospital is operable.
Yes, it is being used. I just gave you an example
Nice.
where cataract surgeries are being performed there.
Now, the ministry received donation of about 8 healthcare robots funded by India UN Development Partnership Fund. What is these robots about?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
So these robots were distributed to several hospitals that have the infrastructure to support it. They are being used. Remember, I explained our technological thrust earlier. They are being used at that level to further deepen the thrust towards technology, so that the experience you had with paper, I want that to be a thing of the past. Because I said before you spoke, one of the biggest complaints, and a valid complaint, is when your paper files are lost. That is a valid complaint, and we have started the process, but we are 2 years behind schedule because of COVID. Right? What we are doing now with the robots and artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
is digitizing our records, so that when you go back for a letter, your experience will be a more positive one. That is what technology will do together with artificial intelligence, so that the doctor doesn't have to write again. He is speaking, and his words are being automatically transcribed by AI into text, and it goes into your file. But it will take time for that to filter down to all 109 health centers. We are focusing now on the hospitals,
To ensure
secondary and the tertiary.
And the tertiary levels.
Yes?
Noted. Hello, good morning. Very quickly, please.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Can the minister put the update on the Couva Hospital? Thank you.
I just did.
He just did.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wasn't paying attention. Good morning.
Thank you.
Davy, good morning.
Good morning.
The caller, before this caller here, asked the minister what state he met Couva Hospital when he went to the office. He jumped straight into COVID. So he didn't, up to now, he answer the question, what state he met it. Thank you.
All right.
Well, it was a hospital.
It was a hospital.
It was a new hospital, yeah. That was the state. Yeah.
Or was it under construction still?
That's what I said.
It was under
so
construction.
When we came into office, it was still a construction site. That was the state we met it in. It was a construction site until June 2017. And I think I said that.
You did.
Yeah.
Somebody says a doctor's oath dictates that he aggressively tries every effort to save life, and I think that is illuminating from the story. But to answer
Yes.
that texter's question, the doctors will have the file, so they would know
Yes.
whether it's worth going the extra distance
course.
or what they need to
Of
do at that
course.
point in time. Why does consultants work privately on public time? I guess that is something that you all are trying to address.
No, but like I could explain
Yeah.
that. So this, and I want to thank your texter for that. When we came into office in 2010, we commissioned the Welch report to investigate that same issue. the people on the Welch report could not come to a conclusion of this issue of whether consultants should be working publicly and privately at the same time. To solve the issue, then Prime Minister Dr. Rowley suggested to the Parliament that this goes before a joint select committee. Opposition, government, independent bench, so that the public, witnesses, people can come before a joint select committee and let us thrash out this issue of consultants working in both public and private. Unfortunately, the leader of the opposition did not agree to that joint select committee, which was the avenue to do just what your texter is saying. So what is happening now, their terms of contract allows them to work both publicly and privately. That is their terms of contract.
And we can't fix that until we need our
Well,
position.
no. We could have fixed it in we came into office in 2015. By 2016, when the Welch report came in and we wanted it to go to a joint select committee.
But the opposition opposed.
But the opposition opposed that and I know the reason why.
All right.
But let's not go into that.
When
yet.
is open heart surgery going to be done at the Port of Spain General Hospital?
So when the new central block is up and running, there's a cardiac unit being put in there. So when that gets in there and we start to phase in those services, that will be taking place there in the future.
Final call. Good morning. Very quickly, please.
Morning, the Dr. Dial Singh.
Mr. Dial Singh, sir. Mr. Dial Singh.
Well, the way he talk like a doctor.
Well, if he's in the Ministry of Health, I would imagine he would
read. That, Mr. Dial Singh?
Yes, sir.
Let's say your budget is $100, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's have a minute here. How much do you spend on recurrent expenditure and how much you spend on capital development? Thank you.
Excellent question. Hey, that has to be the question of the day. So the Ministry of Health gets an allocation roughly of about $6.5 billion a year. Of that, about 80% goes to the RHAs. Of that 80%, about 80% of that is used to pay wages and salaries, recurrent expenditure. Do you know that?
Well, you know, educate us on that.
We have 22,000 persons on staff. Look at that number. 22,000 people depend on the RHAs and the ministry for their monthly salary. When you multiply that by the number of dependents that each healthcare worker has, we are responsible for the welfare of about 100,000 people. 22,000 employees, and let's say each one has 3 dependents. That's about 100,000 people. And 80% of our allocation goes towards wages and salaries and recurrent expenditure.
Noted. Minister, did you get back your bureau?
No, sir, never. No, sir. It was a big emotional loss to me, not a material loss, because that bureau had a lot of emotional attachment.
I would imagine. Minister, I want to thank you very much for passing through here on Freedom. I'm going to take you to our sister stations now, but I do thank you very much for sharing these light moments and, of course, bringing us up to speed.
I want to thank you, but most importantly, your callers ask intelligent, responsible questions. And most sincerely, callers, thank you for that. And we were able to educate the public this morning.
And that's most important. It will be remiss of me if I let you go from here without asking you about the memes.
You like it, eh? I am the most meme person in Trinidad and Tobago. It started with COVID, eh? It started with COVID. But then and you know what? I love it. I embrace it.
Well,
I love it.
That's good. That's good.
I love it.
And all the best to you on
Thank
the
you, my
campaign
friend.
trail. I wanted to ask you about developments within the constituency that you are holding
next
down.
time.
But another time for that conversation. Folks, we take a quick commercial break. When we come back, your news to the top is up next.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM. Your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM. Now, a station that's giving you back the power to speak your mind. The all-new talk radio, Freedom 106.5.
Long time in Tobago, we use the sun for everything. Drying clothes, preserving fruits, seeds to plant, and don't talk about the dry fish. Mwah!
Granny, you're like an OG planet warrior.
Yeah, Granny, it's cool to be green now, and you've been doing it all your life.
You're right. I'm using the power of the sun long time.
Yes, sun energy stored in batteries to power up things like torchlights, phone chargers, security lights, calculators,
And solar water heaters.
Solar power to the people.
A project of the European Union funded Global Climate Change Alliance, United Nations Development Programme, and the Ministry of Planning and Development.
This April, Freedom 106.5 FM presents Voices for the Silent, a campaign dedicated to raising awareness and standing up against child abuse. Too many children suffer in silence. It's time to change that. We're here to arm you with the tools, knowledge, and resources you need to identify, prevent, and respond to child abuse. Join us as we amplify the voices of survivors and take actionable steps to support at-risk children. Together, we can break the silence and be the change they need. Let's be the voice for those who cannot speak. Together, we can make a difference. Stand up, speak out, take action. Supported by the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM. Your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM. Are you tired of the same old boring drive home from work? Look no further. Get ready for the ultimate after-work rush with Freedom 106.5 FM's The Overdrive with Davey. Mondays to Fridays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Let Davey take you on a thrilling ride of non-stop entertainment and education. He covers the topics of the day, delves into the latest food and lifestyle trends, and brings dynamic guests from exciting professions to share their professional stories and experiences. Take advantage of this energizing and engaging experience. Tune into Freedom 106.5 FM Mondays to Fridays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the Overdrive with Davey, the ultimate way to end your day with a bang. Now, a station that's giving you back the power to speak your mind. The all-new talk radio, Freedom 106.5.